Okay, we're live. All right, welcome back for the Zenspath podcast. This is episode 2. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers. Joining me today, we've got Brent.
What's up,
Say
guys?
hi. Keith.
Hello.
And new to join us is my good friend Patrick, who I've known for most of my life, actually.
And I don't know his name.
Hey, what's up?
So today we're going to continue our new little style of picking a topic and discussing it. And this time we've got all the old folks together. You notice Caleb isn't here. We left the kids out of this discussion. We're talking about the original Nintendo, or the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. All of us were alive and got them when we were little kids, so let's talk about, cartridges that most kids don't even understand anymore. All right, so a little bit of backdrop on the original NES. It launched in North America. It came out in Japan in 1983. A year later, in 1984, they did a kind of a soft launch. They started off in New York area and things like that, trying to convince people to sell the system here. And then they had a full official, release on October 18th, 1985, when it went nationwide. Originally, the Nintendo was known as the Famicom or Family Computer in Japan. It was a little, red and white system with the controllers plugged in and all that stuff. Well, we got the literally supposed to be like a VCR style, Nintendo we know, the big gray box. This was one of the third generation systems alongside the Sega Master System, which was originally called the SG-1000, and the good old Atari 7800, which I have still not seen one of those.
I
Can't
haven't
find
either.
them anywhere.
No.
5200 is the last one I have, and even that was new to me when I found it. But speaking of Atari, one interesting thing a lot of people don't realize is Nintendo tried to give the NES to Atari, and Atari
Really?
said no. They thought it would never work. They didn't want it, and well, Atari suffered greatly for that. They're now pretty much just mitigated to one of Brent's hats.
I know, I should have. I just put that up. I was just thinking about grabbing that again. Crap, I could have worn the Atari hat.
Well, we could have had the Atari Entertainment System, and they thought it would never work. So, the original NES, a little bit of technical specs on it just to get the dry stuff out of the way. Of course, it's an 8-bit microprocessor. Everyone knows it's an 8-bit system. Has 2 kilobytes of onboard working RAM.
Nice.
2 kilobytes.
That's power.
Yeah, my phone's got like 1 or 2 gigs, thousands of times more RAM. The fun thing is the actual NES games themselves range from the smallest one being 8 kilobytes. I've sent text messages bigger than that, and that's all of Galaxian.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah, all the way up to the largest NES game, which was a full megabyte, which was Metal Slater Glory. I've never even heard of it.
Oh, no.
I have to look it up now. Most games fell between 128 kilobytes and 384. That's where most of the stuff fit in there. The video processor only had 2 kilobytes of video RAM. My video card on my computer's got a couple gigs on there as well.
Right.
It supported 64 sprites at one time. That had to make up everything, the foreground, the backgrounds, moving characters, all that stuff.
I think my refrigerator has 64 sprites. Magnetized to it right now.
After the cookout? Yeah, I know.
Hey, you know what? Maybe I should paint it like a Nintendo and hold 64 sprites at one time. Yeah.
See, we were going for 2 different jokes. You were talking about the magnets you made. I was wondering if there's still 64 cans of Sprite inside of it.
Oh, Sprite? No.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, no, I did have that, but no.
Yeah, I remember the cookout. You definitely had 64
After a
Sprite.
huge family reunion, no, that's gone. No, I'm talking about the beaded sprites.
Right. The system itself, it's amazing what they could do. Like you think of all the games they did, and the entire thing was run off of a color palette of 48 colors and 6 shades of gray. But you could only use 25 colors at a time, and that made it every Nintendo game.
I thought they had 50 Shades of Grey on there.
That was
No, that would be edited for the North American version, and it's the 6
Oh,
shades
okay.
of gray with no crosses.
Yeah.
So, resolution on this thing, you talk about, we're used to complaining like the old games were, 480p or some, newer systems at 720 or 1080 or 4K. This ran at a horizontal 256 by 240 vertical.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I know I was just sitting here complaining about, for some reason, I can only stream this video at 720 and it's still cutting in and out.
Yeah, but say right now we can hear you, but your videos keeps going in and out.
I'm charging the other phone there, the camera up, so but
That's fine.
256. That's pretty tiny. No wonder it looks like crap on a big screen TV.
Yeah, a lot of people. I've been learning more about the video stuff. They refer to it as 240p. It's the actual. That's how it would put it out. It would try and do a progressive signal for 240.
Wow.
And that was actually very similar resolution for like the Super Nintendo and a lot of those systems. The GameCube had a couple games that would support it. It was mostly them playing original NES titles. But nowadays you basically just don't see anything in 240p. So.
No.
It supported 5 channels of sound, so all the music you'd hear and everything was just 5 samples mixed together really, really well.
And it's still amazing. The music was awesome. And you and I both still enjoy chiptune type music anyway. So. And
if you ever get a chance, go back and listen to some of the differences between like the American version of Metroid. I love the music for that. It's so weird. And then the Japanese disc system version, because they actually had an extra channel of sound. Ooh. So their music is a little bit deeper with what they could do, and they really worked around that. But the biggest difference for the NES compared to modern games people don't realize is every cartridge could contain extra hardware and actually make the games better. So an NES on launch day could not by itself play, games that came out later like Mario 3, Ninja Turtles, Punch-Out, Zelda, Metroid, all that.
Some of my favorite games.
Right. All of those had custom video chips in them, custom extra RAM. They had extra sound chips, things like that, to be able to enhance what it could do. And it kind of led to a thing, different developers had different chips. So do you guys remember, if you played a Konami game, they always kind of looked and felt a certain way.
Yeah.
Because they were running on their own hardware. So I guess the best way to describe it now is if you bought a computer game and everyone came with its own special graphics card, and you had to put the graphics card in every time you want to play. That's kind of how it is. It's a plug-and-play graphics card for each title. So that's the dry stuff. We'll go into. Well, all right. So for you guys that are listening to this on iTunes, which by the way, the show is back up on iTunes now for the audio part, or you can watch us live on YouTube, which should be up there now, Brent, if you want to take a peek.
It is up there, yeah.
Nice.
It's up. I just checked it. Yeah.
That's how I knew I was cutting in and out.
Gotcha.
We'll figure all this out down the road in future episodes. And
yeah, we're like I said, we've started back from scratch, but I think it's already going better than it did before. We were actually 2 weeks in a row.
That's right.
That's a first. So everyone remembers, the gray box original NES, the big blocky one, which mine's right over there and I can't reach it now.
Right.
Well, the original style of this was going to be something, it's a lot different from the red and white top-load version of the Famicom, where you had everything from, they had a keyboard you could get for it and things like that. But even before that, when they were trying to get Atari to, take over for the Nintendo, they made what they called the Advanced Video System, the AVS. And there's one that I know of. I know they have a whole museum at Nintendo that they have their own stuff, but in New York City they have one on display at the Nintendo World Store. It's looks like an old school 80s computer with a keyboard, weird wireless NES controllers with almost Sega Master System type D-pad, a cassette drive, a classic style joystick, and a zapper that could actually bend and change to a wand.
Wow.
Well, I wonder why we never got that zapper. I mean, they could utilize that even Harry Potter games,
Well,
there was no Harry Potter then.
Yeah, it doesn't look. It doesn't look comfortable. You can't. It's not like it had motion control. You would literally just point it at the screen and click. So it may have just been cheaper to have a non-moving part. Can you imagine how many kids would break that?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they actually had a tape deck. Just think you could have had an NES that could possibly play all your favorite hits from the 80s.
No.
Yeah.
The games. I actually have a couple of tape games.
Yes, you do, including the Transformers one.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, that's a gem there.
Yeah. Terrible game.
Patrick, not to bring that up.
So, I mean, it's fun to kind of look at and see. Like I said, if you want to look it up, it's called the Advanced Video System. Take a peek at that, and you can. All of it looks like it's themed as NES accessories, but that's the actual Nintendo. No idea where the cartridges would go unless they were going to try and make everything on tape. That would have been terrible.
Side-loaded.
Yeah.
You know
you have to take a pencil and try and rewind your game.
This sounds like some kind of weird alternate reality version of the NES, you know?
It basically is. I mean, this would what could have been if Atari had, not done what they did.
Well, this whole thing you're talking about reminds me of the Super Nintendo, Sony, PlayStation sort of thing.
Oh, the
where
they found one.
I saw something about it recently. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the Ben Heck video where he was actually trying to fix it.
I almost couldn't watch it because he's taking it apart. What, Brent?
I said if Ben Heck, I haven't seen that one, but I'll check it if Ben Heck is playing with one.
Yeah, he was fixing it.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll go more into that one when we do our Super Nintendo episode. I plan on doing at least one episode for different systems, getting people together to talk about, because it's just fun. We have memories of playing these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the NES was designed to have expansions here too. You remember the bottom of it had that little weird clip that came out with nothing underneath it?
Nothing under it, yep.
Yeah.
There was an open port on the front of the Famicom that you could plug stuff into. That basically nothing used either, except for the Famicom disk drive. We just never got it. So. Other fun little differences, the controllers on the Famicom were hardwired to the system in Japan. So you bought the console, your controllers were stuck there. You break a controller, tough luck. You're part of it.
Oh, you can't plug them in and out, huh?
No, they actually go to the back of the system and they're hardwired in.
Well, that was
extension cables for you.
That was a stupid idea.
Well, the other difference is their controller too had a microphone built into it.
Oh.
Actually, it was used in The Legend of Zelda. You would turn on. There was a character that looked like he had big ears, and even in the American guide, it says loud noises hurt it. So in the Japanese one, you could yell at the controller to startle it and hurt it, and then attack it.
The
Paul's voice.
Paul's voice, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Well, in Japan, it could hear you too. So.
Yeah. It was like an early Hey You Pikachu, huh?
Ooh, nice reference.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. So of course in America they made the interchangeable NES controllers that we know today, but they made a couple changes to them and everything. But all right, so you guys remember back when the NES first came out, or when you remember hearing about it? You guys remember about how old you were?
When it first came out, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I was about 3rd grade when I first heard about one.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. What about you, Keith?
I think I was about 10.
Well, I think you're a couple years older than me, and that's about it. But
yeah, I'm turning 40 this month, so.
You're not much older. I'm 36.
Yeah.
I actually, the first time I had seen one was after-school daycare type thing. They had one, I guess, to kind of control the kids, and I would play that every day. Of course, there's a line. There's 20, 30 kids in there dying to play this entertainment system.
Right.
And, of course, as soon as I go home, I'm like, Mom, Dad, I gotta have this. I can't live life anymore unless I have it. This dude, he runs around and he jumps on these little walking mushroom guys. And my life is not complete. So it took about 8 months or so to finally talk one of them into getting it for me. So that was my first Nintendo.
The first time I played it, we moved down from Virginia to Florida. My grandparents decided to pick it up because I was having a hard time adjusting to living down here. So my parents and them got together and did it because we had gone to one of my parents' friends. They had a party at their house. We went there, and I was one of the only kids there, so they had me hang out in one of the other rooms, and they had these people owned restaurants and stuff like that, so they had an NES with like stacks of games. And at my age, I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, I have to do this, which of course is probably part of why I have this massive collection of games in my house. So, but after playing that, I kept asking my parents, I wanted to play, and they finally got one. And I remember the day I got it, we opened it, and then I had to fight with my dad and my grandfather to get them to stop playing Duck Hunt so I could actually use it. They just took over the NES and started playing Duck Hunt. I'm like, but come on.
Yeah, I can remember my cousin. I lived with my grandma at the time, and my cousin was lived pretty much next door, and he got one, and I can remember going down and playing Super Mario Brothers, and he called these things like he was like, you want to see the dragon? I'm going to go fight the dragon, which was King Koopa, right?
Right.
Which Bowser, right?
It was Bowser back then, yeah.
Yeah, Bowser, and they called Luigi Loogie. They were calling him Loogie all the time. And I can remember I was the first one to actually open the instruction manual and start reading through like the names of these characters and stuff, and I'm like, hey, the dragon's name is Bowser, and those turtles are called Koopa Troopas and stuff, and I was like fascinated with all the backstory behind it and stuff, but they were happy to just play it out of the box, I guess, but.
Well,
I can relate
see,
to that.
that book introduced one of the kind of nightmare scenarios for Nintendo. When you realize that all of the bricks you're breaking are people.
Yeah, it was a kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that, yeah.
That's terrifying.
It was terrifying. Yeah, no, I completely relate to that. As I've told the stories before, that I actually had Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers, sorry, for those nitpicking. I got that like on my birthday in June, and my dad was like, "Here you go." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." I'm opening. I'm like, "Cool, hype." And then once that kind of settled down, I'm like, "All right, where's the other present?" He's like, "What other present?" "That's it, homie." And paraphrasing, but I need a Nintendo. And he's, "What do you mean, Nintendo? I got you. It's the Mario." "No, I need something to play this on." So it took 6 months till Christmas and straight A's in school. Of course, there were all these rules before I can actually get the Nintendo. So yeah, I had read that I had studied that instruction manual back to back. I could probably quoted it back then, and that was my game. Was the instruction manual, and I just stare and oogle at the box for 6 months or so. So yeah.
No wonder you can draw the Mario character so well. That's all you can do for a while. Oh, Lord. What about you, Keith? When did you get your NES?
Don't remember because it was that long ago. But
Dang.
yeah, I was young. Everybody in the neighborhood had one. All my friends had one. We had one in the living room that was my brother's, and then we ended up getting a second one for my room, and his went to his room. So we had two of them in the house, and we played each other's games. And
oh, you had two of them, so you were a rich family.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, what was the original price for an NES?
$199, I believe, is what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
The original one that came out was the system. It came with two controllers, because they always came with two controllers, the Zapper and Rob, and would include Gyromite and Duck Hunt.
Separate cartridges, yep.
Yeah, that was during the original release, and then a little bit later, Super Mario Brothers came out, and they started kind of merging the cartridges. So, kind of a difference on some of them. Like here we have, this is the original Mario Brothers as we know, Super Mario Brothers. And then the Famicom, theirs is a little bit different. This is the same game, but Japanese. Little tiny thing, but it has the same board. So all of this is like empty space.
Do you think, is there a reason behind that? Is it like America bigger is better sort of thing?
Well, part of it is because I was saying they made it look like a VCR. You have to be able to push the cartridges in.
Yeah.
And you
Okay.
can't do that with these; they're too
That would have been a
small.
pain in the butt with them tiny ones. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
So
technically they could have done it. They could have put the chips, or just where it plugs into a lot closer. They could have changed the mechanics inside of it, but I guess they weren't thinking of that. Thank goodness they weren't thinking of that. It's an
well,
iconic part of my childhood and growing up. Even as an adult, I've loved everything about the cartridge, the shape, the color.
Yeah.
well,
Nothing
Yeah.
the
else is
difference
like
the
that.
difference in, and it's hard to tell from here, but you see how much bigger the
Yeah.
pins are.
Yeah. Okay.
They will function in each other's systems. You can get an adapter that'll let it happen. The extra pins on the NES or the NES version of it, the American one, was for the lockout chip. It was their version of anti-piracy.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
in Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, places that were making clone games for the NES like crazy. They could just make a
Yeah.
game, pop it in, and use it. In America, they couldn't because that lockout chip was only made by Nintendo. They had the rights to it, and if you put it in and didn't have it, your system wouldn't work. You remember that blinking red light you'd get?
Yep.
That's of it happening. So, on that one, they did that actually regards, and we'll kind of move on with our notes here. The video game crash. It happened.
Following notes.
Well, I mean, I kind of go by them. But the video game crash of the 1980s, most of us were kind of young when it happened. This was more of like a late 70s, early 80s issue where Atari was the king. They were the system to get. I kind of laughed about, I won't mention what part of it, but in Stranger Things, there's a scene where they're talking about, oh, maybe we'll get you an Atari. And I was like, oh, God, that is that time period.
Yeah.
So I kind of laughed about that because at that point, it was the greatest and best thing. But the
Yeah.
problem is they had no control over who made games. Other companies made like the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, and they
That's
could
what
add in.
Yeah,
Because
we
you
were talking about
remember,
that.
yep, they could make it.
Intellivision was the first video
Yeah,
game system I ever played, yeah.
because
Same
they would
here.
be like, oh, it'll play Atari games, and they could say that because the parts were off the shelf.
Yeah.
So anybody could make one. I mean, there was a dog food company that made an Atari game, and it's ridiculous. It's one of the rarest ones. I'm not kidding. Purina made it, I think.
Ooh, I want that now.
Wow.
If I could get one, I would. It's worth some money. But there were so many games they flooded the market with crap. I mean, people joke about all this, the bad games that are on the Wii versus the good ones. Same thing with like PS2. There was a lot of the shovelware. Well, Atari
Yeah.
was basically shovelware. When one of your games ends up in an actual landfill and have a documentary, you have a problem.
Oh, E.T., right?
Yeah, that was kind of the final crash. They made more copies of ET than they made Ataris. Think about that. That there were more copies of the game than the systems existed. Were we going to buy one for each member of the family?
Yeah.
Like, what's...
That's smart thinking there.
Yeah, no. So that led to the crash. Games were being sold for pennies on the dollar. You could go into grocery stores and find piles of all these junk games everywhere. And there was no quality control, no consistency. So Nintendo, when they came over here, wanted to have a strict policy of control on it. And does everybody remember the Nintendo seal of
Seal
quality?
of approval, or seal of quality, yeah.
Yeah. This little golden ring down here at the bottom is the
There you
Nintendo
go,
seal of
yeah.
quality. Which, of course, I've got this, which is one of the off-brand games, Indiana Jones, which doesn't have it. And we'll talk about this one in a minute, why it looks so different.
Yeah.
But, and they put different restrictions, and there's still, I find it funny, there's still developers complaining about these restrictions now, 30 years later, of why they won't work with Nintendo because, like, oh, they were so mean during the NES. But a lot of companies actually, they were restricted on how many games they could make a year, and they had to go through quality assurance to make sure they weren't crap. So just think about it. Even bad NES games were better than what could have been.
That's what I was about to say. How do we end up with the crappy games then?
Hey, if it worked like it should, it's it's their creation. But some of the Atari games are just straight broken. Like, they barely work.
Yeah.
But this led to kind of like little tricks where companies would make shell companies to put out more games every year. The most famous, if we remember, everyone knows Konami. You know, they made all these big games. But the titles we remember, like Metal Gear, wasn't actually put out by Konami. It was put out by Ultra Games. And under that, they did Metal Gear, they did Skate or Die, they did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Amazing.
You know, the first couple levels, I'm not sure there's anything after that swimming part. I'm pretty sure it just ends after that.
No, I've seen a YouTube video. There are parts after the dam.
Brent, you don't believe everything on the internet.
Yes, you do.
None of us
read that
sport
on the
doesn't
internet.
actually exist.
There's a
One of us is
Wikipedia page that says you can believe everything.
Keith hasn't said much. He's the one that doesn't exist. But the other thing they implemented was called the 10 NES or the lockout chip. That was what on these new cartridges, when you put it in, would say, hey, you're an official Nintendo cartridge, you're okay to play. If it didn't get that signal, it'd go, whoa, no, we're shutting it down here, we're not going any further. And you know, that was a pain in the butt. Nowadays, people have figured out you can go in that chip, desolder one of the pins, remove it, and it's amazing how fast your NES will work again.
Once you solder it right, though, right?
You just take it out. That's the thing. You just literally desolder it, and you're done.
Okay. I was just wondering. You know, I knew somebody that did that, and I think broke their NES for a while. Not naming names. I'm just saying it didn't work for a long time.
Well, I found out it wasn't the chip for that. It was the actual
names.
pins.
I was just speaking.
It was me. All right.
I knew this guy.
It's me.
I kind of picked up on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a degreed engineer, people.
Right.
And I killed an NES. So, you know, once you got rid of that lockout chip, they work fine. And later on, when they released, do you guys remember the top-loading NES?
Yes.
Yes.
That's one of the. I had one, and I gave it away.
It's all
I had a friend of mine, Danny Firamonte. Before I started getting into like big collecting and realizing how rare some of my stuff was, I agreed to be his best man and help at his wedding. And there was this little kid, like a family member of his, really rambunctious. I don't remember his name. He's probably a full-grown adult now. I'd still yell at him. I was like, look, here I have this old NES. If you behave, I'll give it to you and you can play it. And I gave him my top-loading NES.
Man.
He broke it in like a week. And now I see how much it goes for, and I was like, holy crap. Because they still work because they got rid of the lockout chip. It's gone.
Yeah.
So anytime you put a cartridge in, as long as it's clean, it works. No questions, no problems. So I just now rebuilt my NES to where it works the same way like that now, but I'm still wanting to get. I mean, I still have the controller because they actually redid the controller too. Yeah, the dog bone. So.
Yeah, it's actually on my list. I've been wanting to get that for some time now. But I think the cheapest I found it was $80, which shouldn't seem too bad. But you know,
if I find a good one. Here's the thing. There's actually rare versions of the rare top loader.
Really?
They did make a limited release of it that has the AV cables from the Super Nintendo, that connector.
Oh, okay.
So you can do better cables with better picture. And I don't remember if I had that or not. I'm hoping I'm just blocking that out because if I did, it's going to make it that much worse.
I honestly didn't know that. I'll look for that when I'm shopping.
Good luck. It's one of the rarest variations of it, but I didn't even know about it until I was watching one of the channels on YouTube that they go really big into the video side of things.
Wait. Is that something on the internet? Didn't you just tell me don't believe everything on the internet? Are you telling me? My head hurts.
All right, you got me on that one. But
you know I'll pull your card.
Yeah, I know. All right, so we had the basic NES, how it works, things like that. Oh, looks like Patrick muted himself. He's all moving. All right, so the other thing that Nintendo changed when they came over to North America was their marketing. And I want to go and have a little shout out to one of our Twitter listeners, Destino RPG. Really good guy. I talk to him on Twitter all the time. He's actually one of our listeners from Seville, Spain.
It's awesome.
I've yet to actually find
that's
a
pretty
listener
random.
in this country.
That's
But we
pretty
have someone,
random, huh?
hey, he's yeah, come read my blog. It's all in Spanish. I can't understand a word of it. He has very good English when he's on Twitter, though. But he reminded me, I almost forgot about it, the marketing of the Nintendo, which we were kids at the time, so that was for us. I mean, that marketing was thrown at us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this also had some changes. You remember back in the 80s, they started separating the toys. It used to be, there's a toy section, but then there became the boys and the girls section.
Yeah.
And when that happened, you had Barbie on the girls' side, and G.I. Joe and Transformers and Voltron and Thundercats and all in the boys' section for all the stuff we loved. But Nintendo made the decision, because of the crash of the video game market, to release the NES as a toy instead of a video game system. That's where Rob came from. It's he was part of that whole push for that, which we'll get into him in a sec, but that was trying to get around the game crash that occurred. So Nintendo kind of put everything into it and marketed the Nintendo heavily towards boys, pretty much cutting out, or just not showing an interest or even saying it's just for boys. So the girls were kind of dissuaded from playing the Nintendo. Do you guys remember any of that?
In retrospect, looking back, actually, it does kind of make sense. I can't recall anything having any kind of female touch on any of the advertisements or anything. I remember even the lack of better words, merchandise, everything from towels to trash cans to posters. It was always kids.
Boys.
It was boys that were in it. You never had any kind of female touch on it. I never really thought about it until now.
Because when they went to the toys idea, they pretty much went with the marketing, and that was the theme. They were separating it out by boys and girls.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Don't you think that even today, though, that there's sort of this coloring of video games towards guys rather than, females?
Nintendo's admitted to it, and they've changed a lot of that stuff. If you look at the marketing remember when the DS came out, how many they were showing guys, girls, old ladies, young kids, everybody playing the DS. Animal Crossing was heavily put towards everybody because it's actually more popular with a lot of women.
Even today, though, I think of something like Pokemon, and it seems like you go in the boys section of like Walmart or Target, and they've got Pokemon shirts for boys and stuff. My son's not into Pokemon at all. My daughter loves Pokemon, okay?
Yeah.
But it seems to me like there's a large amount of female, girls, women that are into Pokemon, and they're sort of like left out of the merchandising, I guess.
They have a lot more of it. You just have to kind of see where they go to. Because I know, like in Pokemon, they have made a huge effort for both boys and girls. For the game itself, I think it was the Game Boy Advance that started where you could play, you could choose as being a boy or a girl.
Right.
Well, you could even do it in the earlier ones, but they had more actual animations for it. They added more content, different gym leaders. The toys are still separated out a little bit, but they've gotten better about, kind of a lot of places like Target are getting rid of the boys and girls aisles. They're just making it a toy section again. So everything's kind of being combined, which is fine. Yeah. In regards to clothes, sometimes that can be an issue because of sizing. But I know a lot of places like Hot Topic and stuff like that, they just have it all together. GameStop does it, places like that.
You got your left is boys and your right is girls.
They're getting away from that in some of them. But yeah, I know you're talking about, Brent, when you walk in. But like a lot of those T-shirts, they treat kind of unisex to a point, but they kind of get grouped together with their little stands. There is more stuff. Like I found a bunch of stuff for my daughter that's Pokemon and other stuff as well. It's a little bit harder to find, but more companies are making more of an effort to kind of level the playing ground.
Yeah. My daughter's almost she's kind of apprehensive about wearing Pokemon stuff in public because she thinks it's like boys' clothes and stuff,
Which that she shouldn't be that way. Everybody likes Pokemon. Look at Pokemon Go. It's the fastest. It's the biggest thing on cell phones. Period. I mean, it outdid Tinder for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's people hooking up.
It outdid Snapchat, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it's like, am I going to try and get laid? Nope, I'm going to try and hatch this egg.
Well, actually, I think it outdid daily users on Twitter and Facebook.
Pokemon Go is going to do a better job not only getting people healthy, but probably like dropping teen pregnancy in Texas or something. It's going to. What's this?
Teen pregnancy in Texas. Okay.
Weird statement.
Don't believe everything you hear on the internet, and don't believe everything you hear on this podcast.
Well put. Well put. New disclaimer for the show.
Well, they're instead of doing Tinder and not knowing what sex is, they're going to be playing Pokemon Go and not knowing what sex is. Less to do. So.
Okay.
And explain
the evidence. Yeah, the evidence is conclusive. Okay.
Oh, that joke went bad. Anytime you have to explain a joke, you've done it wrong.
Yeah.
So we've seen that for a lot of stuff that's been kind of turning around in regards to marketing and everything. But back then, it did start off with that. But you guys remember, and every one of us probably does, Nintendo Power.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I have a box of issues sitting in my back storage area right now.
You and I need to talk after the show.
I live closer. I offer more.
What's your address? I'll just come by and steal them in the middle of the night.
And then you're
wait, I actually know where his house is.
Turn on the porch light.
This podcast is about to become an auction. Keith just, hey,
He's like, heck yeah, I'm about to bank right now.
Well, Nintendo Power, it originally started off as the Nintendo Fan Club newsletter. I never got those originally. They came within some of the boxes of the NES, but I wasn't allowed to mail that stuff off. But in August of 1988, we got the very first issue of Nintendo Power. And it bugs me a little bit to this day because Mario is colored wrong on it.
He has that it's like a clay version, right?
Yeah, the clay cover.
Super Mario Brothers 2, right? And he's got the red overalls and the blue shirt, right?
And he's got Wart running after him.
Yeah.
He's jumping off.
I had that one.
I did too.
I do too, thanks to Brent.
I didn't have that one.
Brent was gracious enough to get me a copy of that, which I will get it framed now that I'm,
Yeah, that was when that came out. I remember seeing one of those little flyers, and I don't remember which game it came out of. And again, I went right back to the parents. I'm like, my life is incomplete. I must have it. And whatever game that I was able to spit out and win, it worked. And I was a subscriber from the first issue. Heck, I even had the first issue of Game Pro magazine.
Oh, wow. Nice.
It was the premiere issue. And so I had that one, both of them. But the Nintendo Power I was subscribed to for, God, I don't know, almost 10 years. No, not that long. It came out, what, 88? Yeah.
1988, July/August.
10 years I was subscribed to that till I finally stopped. I cut it. I was, my parents weren't paying for it that long, don't get me wrong. I was paying for it since I was a young teenager. And, it wasn't too bad. You pay once a year. But I had every one of them in OCD mint condition until I had no place to store them anymore and decided I'm just going to take what I want out of these and throw away the rest. And I would literally tear out pages. I had stacks of all the posters, all of the promotional things they had out, and I threw them all away. And I saved the first one, and years later down the road, I gave it to Jeremy. I was like, look, I want to donate this to the gaming museum. I know if anyone's going to appreciate it or take care of it, but,
It is in a well-protected place right now, and I'm trying to find the proper frame,
and it's
but
not
it's going
in
to
the
go up
greatest
with...
condition either. I mean,
I don't care. It's the thought that counts.
Yeah, it has stories. It came up forever, but yeah, Nintendo Power was an amazing magazine. I loved everything about it, from the art style, from you see what's coming out, how to pass that stupid part on that one annoying game, to the fact that I covered my walls with the fold-out posters and whatnot.
Yep.
So I love that.
I remember. I mean, it had maps for early parts of Metroid. It had
and
some
Zelda.
of the map for Zelda. That was a big
Zelda
one.
and Metroid is what. Yeah, it caused a Nintendo Power. I was able to get further in that game. That and the 800 numbers, which I wasn't allowed to call, but that's not in our notes.
I never called him, but there was it David Demarest, I think was his name. Him and one of the other guys, and we were in elementary school. they were some of the rich kids, and they had, the huge collections of NES games and all that stuff, and they could call the numbers whenever they wanted to. And I'm like, oh, it's amazing you've called the the Nintendo hotline.
Yep.
And
We weren't rich either, and my mother reminded me all the time when she was on the phone that we were not rich, and I
Mine
needed to
too.
stop calling these so much a minute. He said, why are you calling it? I'm like, I got stuck. I couldn't get out of that freaking level.
Well, kids these days are like, well, just look it up online. Go look for a game fact.
Yeah, it was a different world back then. Yeah.
I watch a walkthrough on YouTube or something, but
Yeah. What the hell's the internet?
yeah, there was no internet. We're old.
There was, it's not to us.
Not to us, no. Well,
Al Gore was just inventing it back then, right?
Series of tubes.
Yeah.
I remember the strategy guides that they did.
Ooh.
I think they did 4 of them, but the one I remember was Final Fantasy, and that's the reason why I got that game.
I don't have that one. I do have. They made one that was like a special issue for the Super Game Boy that showed off a bunch of the Game Boy games, how they would be on the Super Game Boy, and like certain codes to get the colors right, and some of they had like little mini guides inside of it.
Yeah.
There was the NES one that covered a whole series of original Nintendo games and gave like cheat codes, the Konami code, stuff like that in there.
Konami code.
Yeah. Up, down, down, left, right, A, B, select, start if you're doing 2-player. Yeah. And they had some of the later ones when they went on to like Super Nintendo and stuff like that. They had the Legend of Zelda. Huh?
Don't forget the Mario Paint one. They had a whole book on that.
I got that one. I remember I was using that when Animal Crossing started letting you do your own little textures. I would go into that book and recreate the art so I could put them up in Animal Crossing.
Did I give you that book? Because I had that one.
You may have, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had it for a long time, but you may have given me that one.
I gave those to you a long time ago. Only known you forever, but...
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the Nintendo one and the Super Game Boy one I got. The Mario Paint I probably got from you. And then I also have my Legend of Zelda where they took the entire anime, their manga, they had in there, the comic, and did that, which was so far off from the actual Link's to the Past.
It was cool, though. I thought it was pretty awesome.
It was cool, and it was in each issue. You would have that, or you'd have a little bit of the Metroid or something in there, so it was always something different.
They never released the Metroid compilation. It's weird.
Oh,
I did have the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, or no, Link to the Past, right?
Yeah. I keep saying Link's Awakening, too.
Yeah, I had that one, the collection. It was pretty cool, I thought.
It was fun. But, I mean, and the other thing they did with Nintendo Power that was interesting, they gave away a game as well. That's where Dragon Warrior was first released in America, which is now known as Dragon Quest. They couldn't release it under Dragon Quest here because the people that owned Advanced D&D had Dragon Quest as one of their games.
I think I remember having a poster of Dragon Warrior.
Yep.
Never
had
played
that cool dragon with the knight in front of it with the sword.
Yeah. I had the trifold poster. Yeah. That was the other thing about Nintendo Power that I think got us talking about for boys again is they had the trifold poster like certain other magazines that we were not allowed to have. So that was our version of a little, I don't know, bunny magazine,
Right.
But,
they had their own controversies as well. There was one of the early issues that was Castlevania. And parents flipped out because this is actor dressed up as in Warrior's outfit like Simon Belmont, holding this clearly fake decapitated Dracula head.
Absolutely.
Parents flipped out.
Had I known it was going to be the value it is today, I never would have got rid of that one either.
I have to look. I might still have it. All of mine are boxed away right now.
Yeah, that one, the Link one, those actually got destroyed. You got probably the only one that survived.
Yep. It's in good shape right now. It's hiding away. But later on, they kind of kept a theme going where, if you would subscribe, they would give you, a guide and things like that.
And they did.
Well, they also did games. Remember, two of my rarest GameCube games was the Ocarina of Time and Master Quest, when they released those in one disc. And they had another one that had Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask all on one disc. You could only get with a year subscription to Nintendo Power. That was 2 years right there. They got me.
At that point, I was already unsubscribed. But one thing I wish I did have that I don't is they would release with subscription VCR cassettes, promotional stuff.
Yep.
I had one of like Star Fox at one point.
There was Star Fox. There was a Donkey Kong.
Yeah, the Donkey Kong Country. I had that
Yep.
one too. I remember that. Ah, man.
I remember the Star Fox one because they were just, they had the doofus and the small guy that was supposed to be like Sega and Sony, with theirs. And they were talking about the Rumble Pack,
Oh my goodness, I forgot all about that till now.
Which was great because they were using an off-market Mario in the video. Like they were torturing an unofficial Mario.
Okay.
It was hilarious.
I don't remember any of that. I'm sorry.
It's on YouTube. Look it up. Both videos are on YouTube. It's
I'm gonna have to now.
Yeah. Another creepy one on a side note. Look up the one for the Sega Saturn. That one's funny. So, they had Nintendo Power. The other thing they did with the pack, and we mentioned him earlier, was Rob, the robot operating buddy.
Yep.
And as Brent, whenever the camera shows up for you, go ahead and point it out, or you can talk and it'll switch to you.
Blah 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 blah. Yeah, you probably won't see it on this. I'm gonna
Yeah.
probably try to switch cameras here in a minute, but yeah, it came with my original system. Was an amazing peripheral apparatus, whatever you want to call it, that really pulled you into it.
For two
Not
games.
the easiest to use or work with. I only played it with Gyromite. I believe there were 2 games. I think there was like Stack Up or something.
Stack Up and Gyromite.
Yeah, and you had to get this you had to add this new upgrades to it that would replace the spinning top mechanism to whatever the Stack Ups were. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the crud out of it, and it amazed me to death because when you were playing, you were controlling the robot via through a controller that was only sending flashes from the TV.
Yep.
To it, and that was just mind blowing. And I think it was that. I honestly don't know if it was that or Transformers that came first into my life that made me fall in love with robots. But I'm sure they're neck and neck, head to head, and I've been in love with robots ever since. And I do blame it a lot on Rob. But yeah, he's up on my shelf collecting dust since I believe I got my system in '86. Like I said, I had played it in a daycare center, so I had been out for a little while. But yeah, he's my buddy. He watches over.
It's one of the things I've been trying to get for a while.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to find a broken one, and people, of course, they want to sell you if it's broken or not. They want to sell it at top dollar because I just wanted a short circuit to it and just send it off and have it like chrome or gold plated, just to look awesome.
Yeah, which came out first, Rob or Short Circuit?
I want to say Rob. If you give me just a second, I will verify that. But
When did the Short Circuit come out? Do you remember what year that was?
I don't remember.
Well,
it came out in '86, and that's about the
Didn't-
time I got Rob. But Rob had been out prior. He came out.
Rob came out
either
1984.
84, 85. So
He was on the launch system when they did the soft release in Japan, in New York in 1984.
so there you go, 1984.
So he came out then, and then he may have been out, well, probably a little bit earlier in Japan, but
I still want to combine the two. I think taking Johnny Five and mixing it up with Rob would just be amazing. But Rob on tracks. Maybe
Yeah.
well, here's a better look. This is the amiibo that was released for Super Smash Brothers, and they did a fantastic job kind of making
Even
Rob.
the slots to where all the extra peripherals that go onto them, your motor, your top holders, and your
Yeah, he's
controller.
actually got the little spots to do that around there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They went all out.
Well, he's even got an on-off switch. All of the tiny stickers here have all the text,
Yeah.
like all of it. I took my macro lens and took shots. It's all there. Even underneath, where you can't see, is fully detailed.
Yeah. They did
Why?
awesome job.
They could have made it flat.
Wait.
And no one would have cared.
No.
How do you know it's detailed?
I saw a video, and one of the guys actually broke the bottom off, and you can look in there and see it, but they actually broke the bottom of it off.
Come on, break it. Let us see. Break it.
Do it.
Come on.
Do it.
I'm not breaking my Rob. I can go buy another one, but I guess I could break it. Go get another one. But the only difference between him and the Japanese version was ours, was gray to match the NES and very, very robot-like. Well, the Japanese one was like red and white. It actually had some color and style to it. I could see it, popping up next to Power Rangers or something and running around fighting Voltron.
I keep having to Google stuff now.
But basically, Rob was the least successful accessory they ever had, but the most successful Trojan horse Nintendo's ever used. It got them into these markets, but nobody wanted to use it to develop games.
Yeah.
So, you got those 2 games that Brent mentioned earlier, and that's all you ever got for it. It had Stack Up and Gyromite, and that's it. And it came with Gyromite.
Well, like I said, he was
Okay.
challenged to use, and not only that, he was slow.
Oh, yeah, he was very slow.
He was slow in usage, and, when you had it, say when you're playing Gyromite.
There you go. There's the Famicom on the right for Patrick. Go ahead and say something to bring the camera up for you.
Yeah, I just Googled it just because I never really knew that before.
Really? They even released the Amiibo. That was the cool thing. When they released the Amiibo in America, they had the actual the U.S. colors, but Japan got the Famicom colors. And you can select both in the game, but they went ahead and released them in both areas as both colors. Oh, there's Brent showing off his actual Rob.
We're gonna try to. I think I got a little bit of power on.
I can't see it.
Yeah, your camera keeps going out when you talk. We get a frozen screen.
Hold on, we're gonna try this sucker out here.
Why don't you just give it to me and I'll show it off?
I'll give you something.
Okay. See, I see now. Yeah.
Camera 2. Here we go. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. This is what a lot of people don't see.
Oh, kill the other camera. You got stereo sound.
Are the extra little ordeals here that just snap off and on.
Yeah, you need to turn off one of them. The camera's flipping back and forth, freaking out. Because it's picking up sound from each one. There you go.
Is that better?
And we just have your little Olin Mills portrait there.
Before you were born.
Actually, that was during my Mohawk days. Yeah, you don't even see the Mohawk.
Oh, God, I remember that.
But anyways, yeah. And as I've told you before, he actually had this. It had double-sided tape,
like a visor.
A visor. Yeah, you can see. A lot of people don't even use that.
That complete Rob I found on the other day that was like, what, $200-300 had the visor and everything on it. So.
But I keep it clean. But yeah, I mean, you can even see some of the scratches from the years of me trying to pop it off as a kid. So I finally said, "No, I'm not going to do that." But yeah, as you were talking about in full detail, I'm kind of holding it over.
That's your definitive evidence that you got the NES before me, because mine never even came with that. So.
Yep. And then of course, a lot of people talk about the tops. He would pick the top up, and so you don't have this on the Amiibo or his little claws.
Right. I mean,
I understand, but
for people that play Smash Brothers now, they're probably looking at this going, "Holy crap! I understand what that's doing," because you can have him throw the top as a weapon.
Yeah.
All the things he's doing is because of that. So
it's the top.
And it looks
very clean and non-dusty top. But no, yeah, he would take the top, he'd grab it, he'd leave it over here into this motor that would activate as soon as it would press down. And as the sucker's spinning, he would pick it up, bring it over until this piece that you'd have your controller in, and then your A/B button that it would balance on. And it would just spin and bounce. And, but
does it work still, or?
Yeah. Well, I haven't tested it in a couple of years, but yeah, every time I plug them in and everything, they work. Now, the other thing that sucked was that you had to have, is it C or D?
The CRT.
It's a D, well, besides CRT. But the spinner, you had to have a D battery, and Rob itself had to have double A's and whatnot. So, he was a battery killer, but still amazing. It was awesome.
He was meant to usher in the NES, the Nintendo to North America, and he did his job.
Yeah, he pretty much saved video gaming, right?
And they've had kind of a weird relationship.
I think what really saved video gaming was the Zapper, personally.
I love the Zapper.
Yeah.
But, I mean, references with Rob over the years, like he started showing up in the backgrounds of some of the games, and then, remember F-Zero GX? He was like this giant robot in the back of one of the levels, like moving
shipping
crates and stuff around.
Yeah.
But then he became a playable character for the first time in Mario Kart DS. You can actually unlock him as one of the drivers. And
Oh,
then
wow.
you'd even be able to get a special cart that was designed after that base you just showed, Brent. So he'd be able to drive around on that in Mario Kart. And of course, after that, they did Smash Brothers for the Wii, or Smash Brothers Brawl. And for that one and the new ones, he's been a playable character in it ever since, and he's become quite popular. So they've managed to transition a failed toy to a popular character.
Yeah. He's awesome.
It just won't die. So
Yeah, what's not to love about that? I mean, come on.
it's lasted longer than Johnny Five.
Yeah.
More kids know about this than that movie.
That's true. That's true. True story.
So, all right, so the last part of marketing we'll talk about, and everybody remembers this, the Nintendo slogan, "Now you're playing with power."
Now you're playing with power.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember all the commercials that have that 1980s just as it flew into the screen, and as we called it, like the Superman text.
I mean, it wasn't as cool as Sega's Nintendo, but, whatever.
Yeah, that's what happened with Lair, but yeah, I remember it. I've included in our notes a little picture of the little screen logo that would show up after the games.
I remember a Method Man song where he said, "Now you're playing with power."
Seriously?
Yeah.
All right. I can see
Yeah.
that. All right, so let's see. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the bread and butter of the NES, the games. So, the North American version has a complete official, which varies by, what games there. 759 games.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I have I think just under 100, so...
You have under 100?
Yeah.
No.
Well, remember, I had that purge on my games years ago when I was kind of getting guilted into thinking I need to quit playing games and grow up and all that crap, and I listened to it, which I really shouldn't. Kids, do what you love. And I sold, I got rid of almost every one of my NES games for almost nothing. Actually, Patrick, you were involved because you were having a garage sale. You were having a garage sale.
Oh, yeah.
It's all Patrick's fault.
Well, no, no. This weird guy showed up at my house.
I didn't force him.
I know. I'm just saying.
I'm the one that told you. I was like, man, you're selling these for way too little. You need to sell these for more. Don't you remember that?
I shouldn't have sold them at all.
Well, yeah, but you were selling them for crazy low prices, like $1 each and $2 each, and I was like, what are you doing? I was
being guilt tripped to get rid of them, and I regret that greatly now. But I lost probably a couple hundred Nintendo games right then. Like I had all the original Metal Gears, I had all the Marios, I had all the Zeldas, all that stuff I had in there. I had all the Final Fantasies, and all those are gone. So I'm having to rebuild now.
It wasn't me. I was having a yard sale, and I said, "Hey, do you want to add some stuff to the yard sale?" I didn't say sell your games, grow up, be a man. I didn't say any of that stuff. Okay.
Get rid of your toys.
No, I never said you. I didn't say you were the one that made me do it. I just remember you were there because it was the garage sale I was doing with you, and I made the stupid idea.
I just remember you were the friend that stopped me.
Let's make it clear. It was my fault. It was my stupid move.
It was all your fault. It was all your fault.
I always blame Jeremy. Doesn't matter.
Thanks for the support, guys.
You heard about global warming? It's Jeremy.
Hey, Brent, you ever...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. So...
Back to Nintendo.
So from those games, we've got all these classics that we all love, like Super Mario Brothers series, Metroid, Zelda, Contra, Metal Gear, Mega Man. All these started off, games that we still play today, all started off on the original Nintendo. And when it launched, there were 17 games available day one, which are kind of funny to see some of them. 10-Yard Fight, Baseball, Clue Clue Land, Duck Hunt, Excite Bike, Golf, Gyromite, Hogan's Alley, fun light gun game.
I love that game.
Ice Climber.
Yeah.
You got to use your hands? Kids game.
Kung Fu, Pinball, Soccer, Stack Up, Tennis, Wild Gunman, Wrecking Crew, and Super Mario Brothers.
Wrecking Crew. Holy crap.
So
Mario was in that, right?
Super Mario Brothers, yeah. It was a little bit later. but it wasn't a pack-in at first.
No, I mean Mario was in Wrecking Crew, right?
Oh yeah. Mario was in Wrecking Crew. Yeah. Mario
Yeah.
was in almost everything. He was in
He
golf.
was like in 30, 40 plus
He was
games.
in the
Wasn't
yeah, he was in the tennis game too, right? He was like the
he? Tennis, he
referee.
was golf. He was on the cover of the golf.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
He was in Donkey Kong.
He was
He
in
was
Yeah.
Man. It wasn't Mario.
Mario got around, you know.
Ooh, dirty little girl.
Well, Miyamoto originally wanted him to be like a Mr. Video, is what they were going to kind of call him, and have him show up in all these different adventures. And they were probably creatively lazy, but it just put him in everything.
No, you need a mascot,
That's true.
Right, right.
and he was an awesome one.
So we're going to go and start off. We're going to talk about, and this was Brent's original idea. We're going to have our top 10 NES games. That to us. This is not like we're saying these are the best NES games out there and things like that. Those lists have been done to death. These are the 10 that mean something to us, and we can explain how they do it. And Brent, since you had the idea for us to do this again, start us off.
Okay. Well, when I first came up with the idea, I said let's make 2 lists, and
My bad.
which I don't have to make the rules for. This is just my original idea. So, however anybody else wants to do it, that's all cool, gravy, and good. But I said because a lot of the games that I played, I didn't own. So I said I'll make a list of my top 10 of the games that I actually owned, and I guess because I played them to death, and then a list of borrowed, rented, because back in our day, kids, we went and rented games and movies from stores.
Yep.
But,
I was allowed to get bought one a year.
right. And you could go to a store and rent it for a couple of days, so we were cool. And that's what I would do. I wouldn't be able to run them during the week. You had school and homework, so I would have them during the weekend. And that was the challenge, is to beat this game before you had to take it back. It didn't always work. So anyways, I don't have them really in any particular order. Yes, I had to write them down. I'm going to look to my left, whatever.
I'm going to say mine are on the notes, so I didn't mean to do that.
Well, I had to switch cameras over here, so.
Right.
But I mean, you pretty much named all the ones that I've enjoyed. Of course, it'll probably be on everybody else's list. Everyone else that's watching or listening will be like, oh yeah, I love that game. Everyone, that's an easy one to go to, whatever have you. But of course, Super Mario, I still play the crap out of it today. The original Super Mario 1. Love it.
Right.
Like I told in the story before, I had the instruction manual memorized before I even played the game. But it's still an amazing game. And as soon as you plug it in, it's go time. You didn't have to wait for loading or nothing. It's just go. It's just instant go, 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 go. And it's one of the funnest games to speedrun, in my personal opinion. Of course, after that would be Legend of Zelda. I mean, you don't have to explain much for that. That game was amazing, especially for its time, and even today.
Yeah, it was one of the first open world games.
Absolutely. And not only that, it's like once you play it, you beat it. Oh, wait. Play it again. It's changed. It's even harder,
Yep, or you can put Link in your name and jump right to that. It was also the first with battery backup.
Yeah, well, I didn't know about the Link until Nintendo Power.
Yep.
So, and same with my next on the list, of course, is Metroid, Justin Bailey. But, that was another amazing game still today. I still love it, still play it. The only
I got the
thing
reference of what that meant years later, too. It's actually a British term for bikini.
Yeah, it was
just in a Bailey.
Justin Bailey, yeah, because Bailey was the bikini in the UK. But
yep.
Even today though,
mind blown.
Is one of my favorites. The only thing I think that could beat it was Super Metroid, and I mean,
oh yeah,
it is what it is. Which one was it? Was it Other M that came out that redid the Super Metroid ending or something?
It did the CGI of the ending of Super Metroid and continued. It was Other M, people are going to hate me for this. It's a really, really good game. It just has a really, really crappy story.
Yeah, well, the opening blew my mind.
Yeah, the opening is beautiful. The acting in it and the voice acting was a little rough. The game itself was a lot of fun. But anyways, continue on.
Double Dragon, I got that on Nintendo. And the reason why I had to get that is because I was first exposed to that to the arcade. I went to a skating rink. I love skating. I can't prove that these days, but I love skating, and they had Double Dragon. I'd spend all my pizza and candy money right there. And, of course, Jeremy has the cabinet, and I tell him, if ever You need to get rid of it. I'll find a place to put it. I don't care. I'll
it
build a room. Anyways, the NES version wasn't as great as the arcade, but I played it to death. It was hard, but I still loved it. Same with Ninja Gaiden, or Gaiden, or however you guys want to say it. That game was hard as crap. Honestly, I don't think I've ever beaten it, but I still love to play the crap out of it, and it was amazing. I was always in love with ninjas anyways.
Yeah. And it was the
then I
first
moved
one with cutscenes.
Oh, the cutscenes were amazing. You know,
You beautifully recreated.
I did. It's over there. I could probably get that later, or you can just go to Instagram, Insomniac's Art. But Rad Racer was another one of my favorites. There were a lot of racing games that came out there, but that was one that was just really beautiful. And I had the 3D glasses. I don't have them anymore, but that was cool. Not only that, you had your day and night. It had, to me, amazing graphics, especially back in that day. I don't remember which year it was, but I played it to death. And we'll probably talk about this later about peripherals and whatnot, but I actually had the Power Glove. I didn't play many games with it. I did play Rad Racer with it. Because you pretty much, you left, you right, whatever it was. I can't remember, but it was fun. Spy Hunter. I mean, that was an amazing game. It was an arcade as well. I loved the NES version of it. I don't think you could beat that game. I don't remember. I know I never did.
I don't remember either. I never even knew there was an arcade version for years until I found it later. I thought it was just an NES game.
I can't remember if I played arcade first versus the Nintendo or how I came about it, but, I mean, I think it was one of those things, I had to have straight A's, birthday or Christmas. I can go in there and pick it, and it was one of those don't judge a book by its cover. It had an awesome cover, which I love that with old games. Just their box art alone was always awesome. So that made it a challenge. This one looks cool. That one looks cool. Don't know nothing about them. Ghosts and Goblins. Hard freaking game. Loved it, though.
Only got worse.
The fact that when you get knocked out of your armor and you're running around in your underwear fighting zombies, I mean, they pushed it. That was crazy.
That was the biggest screw you when you played, because you go through, fight, get all the way to the end and finish it and find out, oh, that wasn't the real world. You got to do it all again, even harder to get the real ending.
Or if you die, you got to start over.
Yeah, and that was it.
The checkpoints were very far and few. But let's see. These last two on the top 10 list are the ones that I own and played. Most people are like, word? But ice hockey, don't know why I got it or how I got it. I remember that. I loved that game.
I still have it, actually.
I flash back to the movie Mallrats. He wakes up and he leans over and grabs the control and starts playing again. I don't remember if it was actually ice hockey. It was probably
that was he was playing the Genesis, yeah.
Yeah, the Genesis, yeah. But I relate to it. I'm like, oh man. I mean, I was able to turn it off and move on, but I love the crap out of that game. That was an amazing game. And then the other one was Track and Field 2. Now, this was a cool game. I think it was one of the first games that had so many of these mini games. Granted, there were a few of them out there.
It was like a big collection.
Yeah, it was a big collection. If you got tired of one, you could play another. Now, I will admit, I had to cheat, not so much cheat. I had the NES Advantage. Still one of my favorite controllers out there. It was straight up like an arcade stick. For those who don't know what it is, it was a lot bigger. Arcade stick, turbo buttons. So when you're running, you're not going, oh, my freaking fingers, I'm about to break this stupid thing. You just go, turbo. Okay. But past on to that, some of the games that I enjoyed that I never even owned, real quick, Dr. Mario. I mean, that was an amazing game. Jaws. A lot of people will say, like, that game sucks. But I
have that here. I have that here.
Challenge. It was the challenge of the game. I bought it later. Now, all these other games that I'm listing, I actually own now. But growing up, I didn't have them. But it was such a challenge. I wanted to get that stupid shark. Kid Icarus. I love that game to death. I think I never got it just because that's just the way it happened. But I love that game. I still play it today, and it's an amazing character. Cubert, same as Kid Icarus.
Yep.
Love the freaking game. I'll play it in the arcade. I'll always put a quarter in. Doesn't matter. Whatever.
Well, side note, you got the Kid Icarus on 3DS, the 3D version, didn't you? Like they took the original NES one and gave it depth.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It came with the Kid Icarus 3DS game, and then it gave you the virtual console of the NES version.
Oh, that's
So
right. Okay,
I
yeah, I
ended
remember
up, I got it that way.
that. Okay.
But what else I got real quick? Punch Out. Mike Tyson, not Sandman. I didn't own that game. I had to borrow it from a friend all the time. Goes without saying. I don't even have to explain why that game was awesome. Everybody knows that game is awesome. Amazing
30
game.
years later, they're finding secrets on that game. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just recently found a new thing.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Another hard game, Ninja Turtles. You talked about it before.
Yeah.
It sucked. We
I
don't
don't
believe
believe
there's
it
anything
happens after
past the
this
damn level. I have watched videos on YouTube, so Jeremy says don't believe everything you see on YouTube. I
Yeah.
have seen ways to pass that. I have not tested it. I was satisfied watching the videos, but I still play that stupid, annoying hard game. and I
I'd
love
probably
it.
curl up
Matter
in a
of
ball
fact,
now if I just hear that electric static shock sound again. Just, no, not
Oh.
again.
I actually have it.
In the
Well,
box.
not so mint in box, but it is complete in box. I have it in a clear case and everything.
Oh,
but,
cool.
I mean, the edges are still perfect. There's no
remember when you
wear and
got
tear
that.
on it.
So
I think I have a stack of these silly cartridges of this same game because I just kept buying it over and over again. But and then a couple more. Kung Fu, amazing game. Don't know why I can never own it. I got it now. Enough said.
But I've got that
And
one.
oh, did I say Mario 3? I could never own that one, but who didn't love that freaking game? And then just one last on my list. A lot of people are like, "Word?" And I know I missed one or two that came in my head as I was talking. Goonies. I mean, first
Goonies.
off, love the friggin' movie. The game, it was crazy. It was like the first Terraria, if you will, because you're fighting people with a yo-yo, and on Terraria you're killing people with yo-yos. The PC, not the console.
Well, the funny thing
versions,
is, it was called Goonies 2, which
yeah, it was the
people
sequel.
were trying to find the first game, and they're like,
No, it was a
it's
sequel to the movie.
movie.
And that was their answer to it. So, but that's the short list of mine. I know I have a ton more. I've had a few pop in my head as I was reading along. But
That was more than 10.
Yeah.
no, I said 10 that I own, and then
All
a
right,
few that I
Ken,
didn't. So there you go. So I'm gonna move the mic on down.
All right, Keith. I guess since going left to right, it's you.
All right. Well, I had the hardest time narrowing it down to 10 because I got my first 9 down, and then that 10th slot, I was like, oh, I got one slot left. But I tried to keep it one per franchise, kind of the Watch Mojo thing there. But
It's your list, but hey, go for it.
well, there's so much out there. I just wanted to, spread the wealth of all these amazing franchises that are on there. But for number 10, I gave it to Tetris.
Oh, touche.
Which version?
The first one, I guess.
The licensed Nintendo one, and then there was the 10-gen
The
version.
licensed Nintendo one. That's the one we
I
had.
didn't play it until Game Boy came out.
Yeah, if you ever get to find the 10-gen version was actually almost arcade perfect. It was quite interesting, but it's hard to find.
Yeah, we had the NES licensed one, so.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, Tetris is a game that holds up today. I mean, it's Tetris. It's simple. It's
I still think it
dropping
needs
the
buttons.
blocks.
I can't stand the cell phone versions. I'm like, no, I have to have a D-pad.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
have the 10-gen version.
they're making a
I don't think I do
Tetris.
either.
I guess they're making a Tetris movie now too. So
Yeah.
I actually heard a rumor that's actually trying to do a trilogy. I don't
Well,
know how
hopefully they'll
that's
make
gonna work.
mine and they just disappear.
Hey, Battleship wasn't that bad.
Battleship was entertaining. I'm not sure I would call
Angry
it.
Birds movie.
Guns.
Give
This
it
is
up.
literally Block's
I'm not sure if
fault.
I'd call Battleship good, but it was entertaining. All right, so
Energy
number 9 on my list, I put Shadowgate.
Ooh,
Ah,
that's a good one.
nice.
That's a very. I
Yeah,
actually
we-
didn't get to play that until I found the Game Boy Color remake.
We never owned it. We rented it a lot. So, but we actually beat it on rental, and yeah, loved that one.
That was the one that it was first person style, and you go front room,
Yeah.
left room, right room. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a remake of one of the 3 Mac Venture games.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was a remake. I thought it was just an NES original.
Yeah, no, it was actually a remake of a game that was on. It was Monochrome, the original, and it was on the old Macintosh computers.
Let's say
It was
I have
that,
old
Deja
Apple
Vu,
Macintosh
and
here.
Uninvited.
Ooh, deja
were
vu.
all originally monochrome Mac Adventure games.
Hey, Patrick, can you mute yours for a second while you're moving around? It keeps cutting out and messing up. Because as the sound goes, it's like
Cutting
flipping.
into Keith List.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Keith.
All right, number 8. This is the one my brother owns, but player, and it's an arcade remake. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game.
Yep.
Ooh.
I remember that.
So
That was a good one. That was a really
that
good
was a good one.
Yeah. Better than the first.
Now I owned, for number 7, the non-Mike Tyson version is the one I owned because they lost
Mr.
license
Dream.
already.
He
But
did things, so.
it's the same game essentially, just Mike Tyson's white now. Punch Out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Okay.
then number 6, I think this one's probably going to be on everybody's list, but Metroid.
Yep.
So at number 5, I think everyone's going to have one game from this franchise on their list, but probably not this one. Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Very good one.
despite its flaws,
What a
that game
It's on
is
mine.
amazing.
It's
what
on
a
mine.
terrible night to have a curse.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect game, but that, in my mind, is the start of the Metroidvania thing, because it follows the Metroidvania formula.
Really?
Yep.
They
I was
started
never
part
a
of it,
Castlevania.
Yeah, I think it's different myself. I think it's got some big differences.
it is a lot of big differences. They kind of went. Metroid started it. Super Metroid really perfected a lot more of it, and then Symphony of the Night went from there and kind of built it up, and that's where a lot of people get the correlation
Right.
map and
Yeah.
the open world exploration things. But I see what you're talking about, kind of being able to wander around in Castlevania.
Yeah, you have to actually search. You gotta try different things. You have to get different gear to open up new areas.
Yeah.
You have to get the red crystal to get the tornado to go past the cliff.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
There was the glitches where it told you the wrong thing.
Yep. Let's see. Number 4, I mentioned this earlier with Nintendo Power being the reason why I got this game, Final Fantasy.
Yep.
Let's see. Number 3, Mega Man 2.
Nice.
One of the
Mega Man.
arguably best Mega Man games versus 3. Sorry, Jeremy.
No, I have to agree. Two is probably one of the best ones they've ever made. So
You know, and I used to think that too. 2 was amazing. 3 is a lot of fun. It's really hard between those two. I think a lot of people like 2 is because it was so much better than the first one.
I think part of
But
its
3
balance and the way it worked was a little bit better. All of them were
Yeah.
fun. 2 was just masterfully well done.
I think 2 because 2 started a whole new way of thinking with that game, and it started the foundation for 3 to be.
2 had continues. That alone.
True.
Yeah.
True.
All right, keep going, Keith.
All right, and for number 2, I could have gone either way with number 1 and 2 here, but this is how I ordered them, just because how much I loved them back when I was kids.
Kids.
But
How many kids
when
were
I
you?
was a kid, me and my brother were kids. Legend of Zelda I put at number 2.
Okay.
And the only game that I thought was better back then, I said Super Mario Brothers 3.
Okay.
That was the game I anticipated the most coming out before it came out. And when it came out, it was the game I played the most.
I still play it now. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I got it on my Wii U, I got it on my 3DS.
I still break out and play the Game Boy Advance one. I had the e-reader with all the cards for it.
I have an e-reader and cards too. Yeah.
That was great. All right. So, Patrick, what's your list?
Yeah. My number 1 is the same. Super Mario Brothers 3. I didn't really want it to be number 1, but if I'm being honest, as far as games that I played the most, that has to be the one.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I remember going to see that movie, The Wizard, and getting that booklet with all the secrets for the game and all this stuff, and just spending an awful amount of time playing that game. So it has to be the number one for me. And number two is Simon's Quest.
Nice.
Because, yeah, that's the game that got me really... I can remember my uncle who was, he was like a cool guy to me. He had the long hair. He played in like a 80s rock band sort of thing, when I was growing up. And he was like so into that game, right? And it got me into it. It was like it was so different from anything else back then, like the whole idea of you're talking to these villagers, and they're giving you clues as what to do, and some of the clues are just crap. Some of them might be useful,
Sounds like Zelda 2.
Yeah, Zelda 2 is very similar, yeah. And not all of that is in the... people think that a lot of the problems in Simon's Quest has to do with the translation of the clues, but that's not really, like, true, because some of the clues, even in Japanese, were like crap,
Yeah, they were just poorly done.
Yeah. Like, we're talking about the cliff there, the Deborah Cliff with the red crystal and all that.
God.
There's like one version of the Japanese that has like maybe a slightly better clue, but they both have the same false clue as to headbutting this cliff, which there's no button for headbutt, there's no way to headbutt this cliff. But both in the Japanese and the American, that clue is there. It's almost like they were trolling you back then. Like, anyways. The third one was Metroid, and Jeremy, you were the one that owned this one.
Yep.
I think most of the time I spent playing Metroid was probably on your game there. But yeah, that's always been my favorite type of game, is the whole open world type or exploration, find this item, then you can get to this area sort of thing,
It was also one of the most frustrating things. You get so far, then you find out you can't go any further. You need a missile, you need a bomb, you need whatever. Yeah. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Now I got to go back to wherever
Could
the
be
crap
worse
I came
nowadays.
from.
You need a credit card.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then it was like, oh wait, now I finally got that one item. I remember I had to go that one place. Crap, where was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
It
didn't
was a
implement
very
the
frustrating
map yet.
game, but a beautiful game.
It was frustrating too, because even when you put in the passwords to continue where you were, your energy tanks were like depleted, right?
You always
So
started,
you had to spend
always
like
started at 10.
Yeah, so you had to spend like an hour just recharging yourself before you could go anywhere, right?
I knew where every one of those little pits where enemies would just keep coming up, and I got really good at just sitting there.
Right. You had to go to those regenerating nests or whatever you call them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So number 4 was the original Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
Just because that may have been that's probably the first game that I ever beat or completed, I guess. And it was the first one that I ever played, so it's got to be up there.
Good way to start.
Yeah. The Legend of Zelda. It's my 5th one, and I honestly didn't play that. I think I may have played Zelda 2 before I ever played the first Zelda.
Wow.
Really?
I think so, yeah. But
It was a reverse shock for you. Why is this not side-scrolling? I want this to go straight like that.
no, but it was so much better because I felt like I was actually, doing something. Zelda 2 was frustratingly
It
difficult,
was like a Final Fantasy back in the day type
Yeah.
Yeah.
to me.
Number 6, I have Contra at number 6.
Oh, forgot to contact. I knew I thought.
Yeah, and
Wave beam.
yeah.
Red shot.
Every time you do the Konami code, Jeremy, you say up, up, down, down, left, right, B A,
That's
select,
BABA.
start.
ABAB.
See, he's saying ABAB. I could have sworn it was BABA.
The correct code is up, down, down, left, right, B A, start.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. No, I totally agree with
It's the
Jeremy.
Nintendo
That
out.
I remember
And
that select was at one point in that code, but when I would
If you
put
did
it in
two-player.
games, it wouldn't work.
yeah.
I don't know why I always thought select was in it, and I could always remember that you repeated the ABAB or BABA twice, but again,
No.
I could never find anything
Just-
to vouch for that. So
Once time. Yeah.
yeah,
But that was the only way to beat that game. I don't know what kind of freak ever beat that game without using the code. I don't know.
Look,
Not me.
YouTube
But-
speed runs of that game, it'll make you feel stupid,
Yeah.
and they didn't use
The only time that may be the first game that I ever beat, but I did it in 2-player with my cousin, I think, because we both did the code. We got 99 lives each. I think maybe that's the first game that I ever.
Me and you played through it together. I'm pretty sure we did before that.
It was
as
not
well.
super Contra.
I think it was. I think I remember playing through the original Contra. I probably played Super later on, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
we played some of the original Contra.
I don't know. Whoever beats that with 3 lives, they're just, I'll bow down and worship them, I guess. But the 7th one I have, nobody's mentioned this one yet, Super Mario Brothers 2. Nobody
I
likes
love
that one.
Mario
It's a
Brothers
good
2.
game.
People scrutinize me for it. I like the changes. It was different.
Yeah.
It didn't copy the same thing as the first one, and then even when 3 came out, it didn't copy. So yeah.
Yeah.
They
I'm
kind
with
of
you on
copied a different game called Doki Doki Panic.
Well, true.
Right,
True.
right.
They didn't copy Mario 1 or 2.
But here's
Yeah.
the thing, people. Just to clarify on that, yes, Super Mario Brothers 2 for us was released in Japan as Super Mario Brothers USA. It was a reskin of a game called Doki Doki Panic,
Doki Doki Panic. Yeah.
but that game was made by the Mario team. They made that game, so it had all the same people that made Mario.
Really?
Yeah, it's the same group, so it's a true Mario game. It was just made as an advertisement or an agreement with another company. So when they brought it over, it's still a Mario game. That's why all the characters stuck, because
And that's
You
why it's
know,
like that
Shy
Arabian
Guy.
look with the flying carpets and whatnot. That's what that
Yeah.
game was.
right, and they basically remade that kind of with Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U, because you've got all 4 of the characters. They act the same. They have very similar environments running around in. It's kind of a redo on that, so it's stuck around. It's a true Mario game, just a different one.
And it allows
Yeah.
you to play a female character,
Yeah.
Dude, I use Peach a lot. You kidding me? That floating ability was
Oh,
the
the
bomb.
floating bows.
Oh, yeah, that was the bomb. Yeah.
Luigi was the hard mode, just trying to keep his jumps under control.
But I can remember going to the Kmart here on 15th Street and putting that game on layaway and paying on it like every couple weeks or so until I paid it off. So that was after Mario 3 even, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
But yeah, it was a cool game. Number 8 is Mega Man 3. That was my Mega Man game
Nice.
because I own that one. That's the one that I played the most. But yeah, I like the games where you can choose which level to go to
Yeah.
and beat them in any order, because it gave a bit of variety, I guess.
Here
If
go,
you
Matt.
play Mario Brothers, you always start at the same part. Yeah.
I got another. That's my other really nice mint one. Was 3, of course. So.
And number 9 was DuckTales,
Ooh.
That's a good one.
which was sort of the same thing because you could pick which area you went to first, You
Yeah.
could kind of
Scrooge
You could-
McDuck.
yeah. And I watched that show all the time as a kid, anyway, so
Oh,
that was like a bonus, I guess. Number 10, nobody has my number 10. I guarantee it. Base Wars.
Yes.
Baseball game?
Yeah.
Yeah, except you're like robots and you shoot at each other and fight for bases and
No.
you can
Don't have that one.
yeah,
It's
you
a
can
good one.
customize your robots, you can blow people up by hitting them with the pitch and all this stuff. It was crazy.
You told me about that game when we were kids, and I remember, how much you loved being able to play it, but could never find it. So I actually went and found a copy for you, so you have it again.
Yeah.
That's the base wars you have now.
Yeah, that's an awesome game. I mean, it's like a yeah, you take baseball and you put a twist on it, I guess,
You take baseball, you put robots and guns with it. That's literally what it is.
Yeah. But I had some I scribbled over here on the side. One of those was Jaws.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But that was one of the first games that I ever played, honestly.
I've never played
On
Jaws on the NES.
Yeah.
Such
It was
a hard
cool
game.
though. It was
It's challenging.
did you ever beat it?
No, not even today.
No. It's like, I don't even remember. Can you beat it? I don't
think
know.
there's an ending. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. And Jeopardy. I remember playing Jeopardy on the
Oh,
original
nice.
NES.
That was a good one.
I
Yeah,
didn't play Jeopardy. I played Wheel of Fortune. Thinking about it.
I played Wheel of Fortune too.
Yeah.
Jeopardy was cool until you realize that all the questions are repeating over and over.
Yeah, they only had so
And-
much memory. Remember how much we were talking about?
Right.
The whole game would be within, 380 something kilobytes.
Under a
Yeah.
floppy disk.
Yeah. You've got a little bit
And-
of graphics and a lot of text.
Yeah, Zelda 2 was another one that I scribbled off to the side there.
I'm still trying to go through Zelda 2. It's kind of the black sheep of the Zelda family, and I've
Yeah.
been trying to make a better effort to actually finish it. But
Is it on the NES Classic?
Yes, we'll get to that one in a little bit. But I mean, like I have the original cartridge. I found the gold one. I didn't even know there was a gold one until years later.
Oh,
It
yeah,
got a
just
release,
the
so
gray
I
one
got
that was
that.
hard to find.
Well, Zelda 2
I think
Gray I could find. The gold I didn't realize until recently.
Yeah. I think it would be a much better game if you could save your progress on it,
Yeah.
That was part of the problem. It was like, you get somewhere, you die, and then you're back to the start,
So that's your list?
No, that's not my list. Here's my real list.
Oh,
No, just
boy,
kidding.
the Brent. Once he realized
That's it. It's over.
we're done. Okay. All right, so I went ahead and did mine, and I'll go ahead and count down mine. Most of mine are based on the memories I had playing these particular titles, different things I did. They kind of encompass
Exactly.
a lot of how the NES was for me. So number
Yeah.
10 is an odd one, but it was Willow. If you guys remember the
Oh.
original, the movie of that.
Another movie.
I remember the movie, yeah, very well.
I remember the movie and I remember the game.
The game was kind of like a poor man's Zelda. Like it tried. It was a lot of fun to mess around with. It was very difficult. Some of the puzzles and things were ridiculous. It was very unforgiving. But I spent a lot of time in Virginia when I stayed at my grandparents' house. One of the kids that lived right by there, he'd also visit his grandparents at the same time. And I went ahead and got a hold of a copy of Willow, and we sat there and just played through it. It was one of those big games that we were trying to work together to figure out what to do as we're playing, making a single-player game multiplayer, basically.
Yeah.
My number 9 is Iron Sword, Wizards and Warriors 2, which I found out later this is actually a game made by Rare, which explains why it was difficult but also fun to play.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're one of the little shadow developers, They did that. They did Ridge Racer, there's a lot of those.
Ooh,
Or I think it's Rad
goodness.
Racer, actually. Sorry.
I never played that, but I actually had the poster from Nintendo Power on my wall.
Yeah, for Rad Racer, not Ridge Racer. I don't know why I said Ridge Racer.
No, I'm talking about Iron Sword.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was had some of the controls almost like Ghosts and Goblins, but you had more verticality to it. You'd find different spells and things to enhance yourself while trying to live. Really difficult. I only beat it once. And then I was like, I'm done. But I just remember playing it for so long. I got it and just went through the entire year with it. My number 8 is Excite Bike.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
We would get together with friends. We'd make our courses. and race and see, if we beat each other's times. On
That
a
was
side
supposed to
note,
be on
Yeah.
my list. Dang.
yeah, as a side note, I even had for a little while a working arcade version of it, and even that version, my neighbor would come over. He could get into the garage, so I tell him to come in. He'd turn it on, and we would compete back and forth on the times on Excitebike until I had to try and fix the controls. So every version of Excitebike just needs to be fun.
One good thing about that was it was like it was one of the first games that I can remember that you could customize anything. Like
Yeah, you made your
the
track.
courses.
Yeah, make your track.
Yeah.
And they've kept the theme of that really well. I mean, the later versions of Excitebike, like on the 64, you could make your own tracks. Even the reference to it in Mario Kart 8, you could go in and it would randomize the track every time you played it, like it was made of different sections. So you didn't know what you were going to get into when you raced. It was
Yeah.
only consistent on time trial. That was the only mode that had a specific track. My number 7, of course, as you mentioned earlier, is Contra.
Yeah.
It's the epitome of multiplayer on the NES. You mean,
Yes.
I wasn't a big sports guy, so I wasn't going to do like Tecmo Bowl and stuff like that. But you get people together with Contra, and you're fighting for your life the entire time. And it switches from the side-scrolling shooting where you get all these different weapons. You got the machine gun, the flamethrower, the spread shot. But then it would switch to like this over-the-shoulder view where you're having to kind of shoot up at an angle, pseudo 3D, and that always threw me off.
So
Number
much
6,
fun.
yeah, number 6. This actually happens a couple times in this list. I didn't mean for the numbers to match; it was coincidental. But number 6 is actually Mega Man 6 for me. It's not the best Mega Man. I still consider 2 and some of the other ones better, but Mega Man 6, me and my little brother, when we got it on the original Nintendo, played it religiously, and that was one of the ones where you could take Rush and turn him into like a jetpack and stuff like that. So you could.
Oh
I
yeah.
know it's 5.
Well, 6 did it as well. They added more
Oh,
stuff with the
sorry.
jetpack because I remember he's on. Well, no, 5 started it, and you're right. But 6, I think you could also turn like a little sub. Like there's different things you could turn Rush into, which was kind of neat because it added to going back and playing levels with new abilities and now new parts of your suit you could do, and it was one of the. I think it was the last NES one. After that,
Yeah.
7 I think was on the Super, I believe, or PlayStation.
Super Nintendo.
8 was on
PlayStation had
PlayStation.
8.
That's right. Okay. I think it's one of those. So my number 5 is Mike Tyson's Punch Out, which yes, the original Mike Tyson version, not the Mr. Green, that's the one I played.
Classic, classic.
I never beat Mike Tyson. I still cannot beat Mike Tyson.
I got a few good licks on him, but I can't say if I've ever ever beat him.
Yeah, he beat me badly. It was just like, hey, done.
The same thing that he did to his former girlfriends, wives, all that.
That's part of why he
Yeah.
also was no longer in the Nintendo game. They were like, we're going to distance ourselves from this
See, I
man.
heard it was just they ran out of licensing, like he had a contract for so
Well,
long.
he also had a rape charge on him and a
Well,
few other
true.
things at the time, and Nintendo's like, we're not going to renew.
Holly
Bye-bye.
Robinson.
So a side note, has anyone watched Mike Tyson Mysteries
Yeah.
before?
No, never even heard of it.
How's
I
it
heard of it, but I haven't
Okay.
watched it yet.
It's actually really funny.
It's funny.
Basically,
I'm sorry.
Mike Tyson's kind of like, he seems like straightened a lot of his life out, but he's like, look, I'm just going to make fun of myself. And he does it in everything he shows up in now.
Yeah, all the movies.
Yeah.
I mean, when he showed back up in The Hangover, that was great,
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
Tyson just knocked you out.
He was in the last Ip Man too with Donnie Yen.
Yeah, that
the
fight was
story
great.
about the teacher that taught Bruce Lee. That was an awesome fight.
So, my number 4 is Kirby's Adventure.
Ooh.
No one else
Oh,
mentioned
that's a good one.
I didn't
Not
get into
the- Yeah.
Kirby until just a couple of years ago, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirby's Adventure was not the first Kirby. That was actually on the Game Boy.
Game Boy, yeah.
This is the first one where he could actually absorb and use the powers, which completely, I mean, that's all you ever think about with Kirby, but it wasn't even there in the beginning.
What did he do on the Game Boy one then?
He just would eat them and spit them out of stars, but that's it. And he could float.
Oh, okay.
But originally, he was supposed to be pink, but when they did the artwork for that one, the artist messed up because it was a black and white game, and that's why Kirby is white on the Game Boy cover instead of pink. They got it wrong. The other fun note, he wasn't even supposed to look like that. The Kirby design was a placeholder sprite they just decided to like.
Wow.
Because they were just like, it's really simple. We'll just put it here until we figure out what we want to have. And they're like, no, we kind of like this. So that's why at the beginning of the NES game, it has that little piece where it actually shows how to draw him, which I used to try and do that. I mean, I don't have Brent's drawing abilities, but damn it, I could draw Kirby. But me and Ian, my little brother, when he got that, we played that together a lot. You know, we'd go back and forth and take turns and play it. And the Kirby games are not the most difficult titles, but they're just fun. And even now it continues because I can play those games with my daughter. She loves them. She enjoys them. You know, Kirby's
Yeah.
become a generational thing for me.
Cool.
So here's my other numerical enumeration I didn't mean to do. Number 3 is Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah.
Mario 3, I remember the exact summer I got this because my parents never bought me new games. There was always at Christmas. I got one a year because Christmas is my birthday. So they just combined them. So, Brent, if the whole situation had happened with me that it happened with you, I would have gotten Mario and then waited a year. So, but I was staying with my grandparents in Virginia, and out of the blue, they didn't even tell me. They knew I wanted the game, but I mean, I didn't say anything about it. We're walking out. I'm going with my grandma. She wants to go shopping for some stuff all day. And I was going to go with her. Why not? She opens the mail, and there's a package from my parents. I rip it open, and there is brand new in the box Super Mario Brothers 3. And I'm like, I have to play this. I want to play it now. And she's like, all right, get in the car. Let's go. We'll be back tonight. And I'm like, no! So I spent that entire day looking at the artwork on the cartridge, reading the box, reading the book, every little thing about it until I can get back. And she's like, all right, you got to go to bed. You got 20 minutes. And I'm like just running in there to play all the Mario I can in 20 minutes. And I played that game religiously. I still play it to this day. I'll just break out and play Super Mario Bros. 3. It's one of the other ones I have on my 3DS right now that I'll play at any time. My number 2, I had a back and forth on between my number 2 and my number 1. But my number 2 was Metroid.
I would have said number 1 for you.
To a point, number 2, I had a lot of memories, specifically with a friend of mine back in the day named Jonathan DeGroat. We were, middle school and high school together.
Yeah.
We'd always mess with each other. He lived right across the street from me. But we got Metroid on the same Christmas. We got it a couple years after it came out, and we didn't get it the first time, but we got a hold of the game, and I don't even remember what got me interested in playing it. It was probably Nintendo Power or something. But every day we would meet on the bus, and we would switch codes with each other to verify where the other one was, and we would compete to try and get through the game and get the most stuff and see what we can do. And we did that for weeks, playing it back and forth until one of us discovered the Justin Bailey code, and then it was all over. So we had to agree not to use that. But sadly, I ran into him a couple years later after we graduated, and he was recovering from cancer and then ended up getting cancer again. It went to remission, or not remission. It came back and he got it in his brain. So after getting to see him one last time, he passed. So every time I play Metroid, pretty much any of them, I kind of remember that. And it's just one of those memories that, like, hey, this is something we did. Like, we didn't always like each other. It was kind of back and forth, but we always were competing with that. So it's a really good memory.
Yeah.
Number 1 is The Legend of Zelda, because this is the one game I played with everyone. We would we'd look over at maps, figure out what we're doing. I remember messing around with it, playing it with with you, Patrick. I remember messing around with it, and talking to Brent about it. Even way later when we met, it had been out for years, but we still, would talk about it and remember it and do all that stuff now. And then I've got my kids into it. They play The Legend of Zelda. I've got painted maps in my house that we paid for and got. That's like painted maps of Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, so we can mess around with it. So that's kind of my NES thing. So.
Cool.
All right, so we'll go a quick run through on some of the accessories. Now that we've kind of talked about our games, we all know about the NES controller. That's a staple. It's pretty much become an icon for retro gaming. Even if it's not Nintendo related, people think about it. Even though they made a better controller, they had the top loaders controller, which better buttons, better D-pad, better comfortable shape, but everyone always goes back to that big square rectangle. We talked about Rob earlier. Only worked with the 2 games, and then it was kind of a Trojan horse. Quick run over the NES Zapper, which Brent, you were saying
Oh,
that's
that
probably one of
one's
the most
good.
important things.
Oh, that was, yeah. And it
Package,
Yeah.
upsets me that you had to have a CRT TV to play it even today. I mean, I think that the Wii and the Wii U has really dropped the ball. I mean, they had the one deal that held the nunchuck and the, whatever.
well, I
The
mean, you
two-handed
can't really.
crap,
The
but
refresh rate's hard to do that, but they actually did go back and retrofit the Virtual Console version of Duck Hunt to work with the Zapper.
yeah. I'm just
Where
saying,
you could
that's
use
what
the remote,
I feel like they really dropped it. I think they could have came out with a standalone unit, not a controller so much. I mean, you can have your D-pad and buttons and whatever.
The
have you,
problem
but
is the processor. It had to be so fast with the refresh rate. It just doesn't work the same because it relied on scan line, and TVs just don't do that anymore.
yeah. Well, no, it
But
doesn't have to be like a light gun like it was. It just I think it'd be cool if it looked similar to it using a controller like of today's.
like plug a Wii remote into it a little bit different.
Yeah, well, you didn't have to even plug a Wii remote up to it. It could have the guts of a Wii remote already built into it.
Yeah, they had something like that you could get that was a little bit different that worked well.
Is the one where you just put the remote into it and the nunchuck into it, and they had the 2 hands?
It would just be the remote actually, and you'd be able to use that. You didn't have to use the nunchuck for all of them.
I just think that they brought that back out, especially when I saw that on the virtual consoles. Those are
They're
always
kind of
fun
hesitant.
games.
If you notice, a lot of like light gun games have gone away, not because of just the technology, but people have been hesitant to make those toys.
Yeah.
Because I know, like when the Dreamcast came out, even though they had like House of the Dead and these great light gun games, you couldn't get an American light gun officially because Sega wouldn't make it. They need you to use a controller for like sniper games and stuff. And it made a short comeback for a couple games on the PS2 and the Xbox, but then it just went away. They
And
haven't
maybe
really
it's just
done
me.
too much.
I mean, every time I go in the arcade, if I see a Time Crisis game, I'm going to jump on it. It's just, I love the old, light gun games and whatever have you. But yeah, the Zapper.
Oh, I'm not arguing. I love
amazing.
them too. The Zapper I used to play, Hogan's Alley, Duck Hunt, Gotcha, which I was joking earlier, and I kind of made the realization when you play Gotcha, you would have your NES controller in one hand, so you could move back and forth, and the Zapper in your other. And I went, holy crap! Back then they had the remote nunchuck. You're pointing the gun at it
Nicely pointed.
while you're moving with. I was like, wow, okay.
So when I found out how the light gun really worked, it was pretty cool for me. So Jeremy, can you explain a bit about how the light gun works?
Yeah,
I know
this is actually
you're like
also
the technical kind of guy here.
Well, for a fun fact, this is also how the Wii remote camera works, how it sees your position. What it is everyone thinks you're shooting at something, that you're shooting a beam at the TV and it's doing it. But in fact, the Zapper and the Wii remote are cameras. They're looking at what the TV shows.
Right.
So when you would go to shoot, you'd pull the trigger. It would then flash the screen, and then it would go all black for one frame to test it, so you couldn't just put it in a light bulb and shoot.
Right.
And then it would have another frame that had white boxes where your targets were. If your Zapper was pointed at it and it saw that white light, it registered a hit.
As a hit, yeah.
Right. Now, the reason you can't use the Zapper on newer TVs, like on LCDs and things, it refreshes so quickly because it used to have that time where it would go down the screen. Now it just happens.
Yeah.
So by the time the frame came up that had your target to hit, it would be gone before the Zapper could recognize it, and you would always miss. So you could just sit there and click all day long, and it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how that works, that it's a camera.
It's fascinating, really. I mean, yeah.
It's a light sensor. It's literally the same thing that a nightlight uses.
Yeah, it's very cool.
What I always wanted to get was the original Duck Hunt game, the non-Nintendo 70s Duck Hunt game.
Oh, yeah, I'm still trying to find one of those.
I found them. They're like $1,200.
Wait. What are we talking about here?
It is the original Duck Hunt game that
Japan
Nintendo
only.
pretty much copied and based it off of, but it comes with a Zapper. It comes with a projector. It shoots it on the wall,
Yep.
And you actually play it the same way. And
No, come on.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
You're blowing my mind here.
Oh yeah, I'll have to send you some links of videos, and I've learned about it via the interweb. But it was an amazing thing, and it's on eBay. You probably won't find it any cheaper than under $1,000 right now. So.
No,
Wow.
not that. I mean, we're talking. This was Nintendo before the Famicom and NES, when they were still a toy company and they were experimenting with it.
Yeah.
I think
Is this when they're making what do you call those, Hanafuda cards or whatever?
It was after the Hanafuda cards, which they still make those today, actually. But it was after the main production of just doing those, when they were mostly a toy company. They started making some video games. They were doing kind of like clone Pong systems, where they'd have a couple games built into the hardware, and that would be it. They were called like the TV2 or something like that. And it's some of the really, really old Nintendo stuff I'm trying to find.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never seen one in person.
This stuff is really like fascinating when you start like. There's so much to this that I never knew. I mean.
For every game company I've looked into, there's this massive history to it. I mean, even the story of even modern consoles, like what happened with the PlayStation, with how Xbox came to be, Dreamcast was. All right,
it's
so the last
fascinating.
It is. So the last thing on the Zapper, of course, we're talking about why they don't really make much of the guns and stuff anymore. The original Zapper was a two-tone gray that everyone remembers.
Yep.
There was some laws that passed in the 1980s that any kind of toy gun had to be a bright color or anything like that. So to avoid the problem, Nintendo started releasing everything in this
orange
color.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, you can kind of tell when they got their NES based on their Zapper. A lot of, if I see like younger kids that are like, oh, I remember playing that, they probably had an orange one, which I still have, my original gray. So, who knows? All right, we're going to move on to not quite the last accessory. Actually, we'll skip this and go to the other one so we can bring this up final. The power pad. DDR before DDR.
Yeah.
Who here actually used their feet, and who all just got down and just used their hands and hit it?
Yeah, I have nothing to say about this because I don't think I've ever used this at all.
I used it for track and field, world-class track meet. And that was it.
Yeah, I didn't use this one.
Could you imagine they had done like a DDR with chiptunes?
Oh my goodness.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I guess.
I like chiptunes, so.
I do too,
All right, let's get to what Brent wants to talk about. The Power Glove, because it's so rad.
So rad.
I had a Power Glove. Yeah, I had one of those.
This is another one that's got an interesting story behind it for its technology, its whole development. There's a documentary online you should watch. It was originally developed by Mattel, so it's actually, Nintendo didn't make it, but it was licensed by them when they get the technology. And I just realized, if you look at the show notes, the controller that's on the advertisement is not even the actual gamepad. It's been changed. I just noticed that.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have the NES controller. So this was a prototype. So this must have come out before they even got the final model out. That's hilarious. I never even noticed that until now.
Everything else is child play.
Yeah, that was their tagline. And I don't think it's the same kid, but they tried to make him look like the one from The Wizard, as you brought up earlier.
It's not him.
Yeah. Because they had the kid in The Wizard that, like, he had it in a chest, like, breaks it out, puts it on, looks like a gauntlet. He's playing Rad Racer, doing like this, steering the car, and it's hilarious.
That's how you played it. That's the one I played on. The Mike Tyson Punch-Out sucked. That was a hard game.
Oh, God. I couldn't get anything.
Kicked by, was it Glassjaw Joe or whatever?
Well, here's the kicker. There was 2 games officially made just for the Power Glove, and that was Super Glove Ball and Bad Street Brawler.
Yeah.
With Bad Street Brawler, they just literally bought the development and made it a game, so it kind of worked. Super Glove Ball actually works very well. I was surprised at the 3D depth and how it works.
Virtual reality, if you think about it.
Yeah, but it just went away. No one wanted to make anything for it because it's so complicated. But the Power Glove was originally this very... Oh, someone's playing a video.
That's me.
Oh. Go ahead and talk so you can get back on camera.
Yeah, that's That's the commercial, I guess, from the.
I remember that. Oh, that's terrifying. I remember that. But
It shows him playing Mario 2?
yeah.
God!
Well, remember, Mario 3 came out after The Wizard.
Yeah.
Power Glove was shown before then, so...
Right, because it was all part of the movie. That they showed the Power Glove in the movie, and then at the climax of the movie, it was the revelation of Super Mario 3, right?
Duck down, go behind the scene. How did you know that?
Yeah. Oh, of course. You know, you see a white block, what are you going to do? You're going to duck down for like 3 seconds or so.
Right. So I found out when I was looking at it, the way the Power Glove is made, you actually have bendable sensors in the fingers that as he bends your fingers, changes its resistance, and that tells you which finger is being bent. So it's kind of an on-off switch. So you would set your finger based on that, so you'd have to kind of bend it to do it. The top piece, how it knew where you were and how close you were, was actually using sound. It was using an ultrasonic sound, and that's how those speakers would output it. The controller would listen for it. And the timing based on the signals is how it knew how to move. Those are microphones on the front of it, not cameras. So
crazy.
But what's really crazy is they made this thing based off of their first prototype, which was like a couple $1,000 complicated glove, and they're like, we need to make it as cheap as possible, and they managed to do this. Toy makers are ridiculous. You just, wow.
Yeah, I had one, and I can remember trying to play like Mario Brothers with it and stuff, and it was horrible. It was just.
I would just give up, take it off, and use it as a second controller. Just hold it sideways and try and play. Like,
yeah.
The only other controller I had.
But it was so cool, though. It felt cool. It was like.
Rad. All right. So, you guys want to go ahead? You have the notes there. Go ahead and start talking about the NES Classic. I will be right back.
Oh, he's leaving us.
Where did you go, Jeremy?
I guess he's talking about the new Classic Edition that's coming out later this year. I'm really excited about this. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's like a miniaturized Nintendo. It actually has a full-size Nintendo controller, but it's going to be an emulated system that's going to have like 30 games on it. And I'm psyched about it. It's coming out. It's going to be, is it November? I thought it was in September it was coming out. But yeah, he's got it written down for November. $60. It's definitely going to be something I'll be getting. We've got a list of games. I don't know if we want to go through all the names of the games on there, but
it's pretty much all the major ones. But the biggest thing I wanted to talk about it is the video output modes that we've actually found out about. They're doing the replication of the CRT with the video out for older TV style, like scan lines and everything to make it look like you're playing on one.
So wait. We talked about this. You said there wasn't any output for that.
No. It replicates a CRT.
Oh, replicates.
Output.
Okay.
Right. It makes it look like it's playing on a CRT with scan lines and stuff. But it's an HDMI out only. That's the video.
Okay.
They have the full modern resolution where you can play it in 1080p, but it'll keep the games in a 4:3 format, so you'll probably have bars on the sides.
Yeah.
And then they're doing a full pixel version where every pixel is actual square, which it's a much cleaner look. It's actually something I've been trying to do with modding an NES before, so that's kind of cool to see. The other thing, though, is, I mean, given the logo, which I show here, looks like Keith dropped out. He may have had to go. Given the logo we've got there of the NES and the classics, it looks like they're going to end up making more of these. I mean, I could see a Super Nintendo or an N64 one later down the line.
No, that'd be cool. Yeah. So, what do you think about the games list? Is there anything that you think you would add to it or take away from it?
I kind of wish they'd put Contra instead of Super C, but
yeah, me too.
But they do have a lot that we've listed in our top 10 list already.
And for some reason, Galaga and weird version of Pac-Man.
What do you mean for some reason Galaga? Galaga's awesome.
Galaga's awesome. The NES version was weird.
But it's available on so many other compilations, though. It's like, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's going to feature a wired version of the NES controller that's made to hook into the Wii remotes, which that
Yeah, that's
can
cool.
actually go back and forth, so you can use the classic controllers on this and all that. But if you look at the picture, this thing is really tiny compared to it. Like,
It's
There
really
was
nice.
there's a couple games on there I was kind of surprised about, like Star Tropics, right?
yeah, that is
Um,
one I was surprised to see being on there as well.
yeah, but it's kind of like a game that I always wanted to play, but I never have. So I think it's kind of like a good surprise, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to try it out. I never actually got a chance to play that one before.
Yeah, and the fact that they have something like Tecmo Bowl, but they don't have any kind of baseball game, or another one I never listed that I love playing was Double Dribble. You
See,
know,
the
Double
problem with
dribble.
those, Tecmo
Yeah.
Bowl they could get away with because they made up the teams. They weren't actual teams. But Double Dribble and a lot of those used actual
they
teams,
use
so
real
EA has
teams.
the
Okay.
license,
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
so they're not allowed to put them out.
Yeah, I would
I
like
was
that.
Well, I
Go
think
ahead.
Double Dribble is also owned by Konami as well.
Yeah,
Right.
but there's some Konami games on there already though.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah,
they can only give so many to Konami, though.
that or
I was
it'll be
surprised
a
to see
pachinko
Simon's
machine.
Quest on there.
It'll just end up a pachinko machine.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Simon's Quest on there, but it's a good surprise.
True. So I mean, I think we'll see more of these a little bit later, but we've been going for quite a while, so I think we're going to go and start wrapping this up. If you guys want to start giving your contact info, we can go with that. Brent, you want to start us off?
Like I said before, you can hit me up on Facebook and Instagram under Insomniacs Art. It's N5OMNIAC Art. We'll have that list over there at Zenspath on their Facebook page as well to make it even easier for you. That's good for me.
All right, Keith, your absolutely hilarious Twitter handle.
I'm at Big Evil Squirrel on Twitter.
I'm surprised you had that. Who did not already have at Big Evil Squirrel?
Yeah, right.
It's now my gamer tag on Xbox, too, so.
That's 2 for 2. Well done. I need to add you on there. All right, Patrick?
Oh yeah.
No? No? Okay.
No, if you want me, I'm just Patrick Owens on Facebook. Other than that, I have a YouTube channel, but it has absolutely nothing to do with gaming or any kind of geek-related information. So
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah.
All right. Well, as usual, you can find me at Zenspath, Zenspath on Twitter. You can find our videos, including this, which you can watch live each week when we do it, at youtube.com/Zenspath, And of course, every once in a while usually I do the Nerd Edification Hour, which is over on Caleb's channel as a guest, which you can find that at Strangely Entertaining, capital S, capital E. So this has been our fun little discussion about the NES and where we think it'll go from there. We'll probably do some more console-related ones a little bit later. Any other ideas you guys have, let us know. And remember, each week you can watch it live on YouTube, and we try and get the links up on Facebook as well. So it has been a pleasure. Once again, Brent, Keith, and Patrick, I've been your host, Jeremy Powers, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.